France's President Emmanuel Macron spoke with the U.S. President Joe Biden and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to propose a summit between them to find a pacific solution to the Ukrainian conflict. Meanwhile, the evacuation process of the residents of the Donbas region to Russia continues amid the escalation of hostilities amongst Kiev authorities and the self-proclaimed republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. The United Nations has denounced the forced eviction of Palestinians in Jerusalem. In Brazil, the death toll resulting from heavy rains and landslides in Petrópolis rose to 171. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. The President of France, Emmanuel Macron, spoke with the U.S. President Joe Biden and the Russian President Vladimir Putin to propose a summit between them to find a pacific solution in the Ukrainian conflict. Both presidents, Biden and Putin, accepted Macron's proposal about the summit, and then they will be meeting with relevant stakeholders to discuss security and strategy to maintain the stability in Europe. U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will prepare the substance in a meeting on Thursday, February 24th, and President Macron will serve as content and topic moderator of these discussions. In Ukraine, the evacuation process of the residents of Donbas region to Russia continues amid the escalation of hostilities among Kiev's authorities and the self-proclaimed republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. Russian officers detailed around 40,000 refugees of the self-proclaimed People's Republic of Donetsk and Lugansk arrived to the Rostov region, which 60% are minors. Over Donbas conflict, other 26 Russian regions have shown their willingness to receive displaced people. The events unfold while Lugansk authorities reported at least 3 injured civilians after Ukrainian forces perpetrated 66 total airstrikes in a day. In turn, in Donetsk, in Zaychevko town, reports pointed the firing of at least 12 projectiles against civilian areas. And we remain on topic. On Sunday, Belarusian Defense Minister Viktor Drenin announced the extension of joint military maneuvers with Russia. According to Drenin, the drill's extension occurred amidst the increase of tensions on the border zone and the escalation of the conflict in the East Ukraine. In light of the growing military activity near the external borders of Russia and Belarus and the escalation of the situation in Donbas, Minsk and Moscow have decided to extend the inspection of Allied response forces. And also, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock advised against assumptions with misleading information regarding the tensions in Ukraine. At the end of the G7 meeting, Germany's foreign minister warned against trying to guess or assume Russia's decisions on Ukraine. U.S. President Joe Biden had said earlier that he was convinced that the Russian President Vladimir Putin had made the decision to attack Ukraine, sending fears soaring that a major conflict could break out in Europe, only in assumption lines but with no facts. Baerbock made her remarks after hosting a foreign ministers' meeting on the fringe of the Munich gathering, which has been dominated by the Ukraine crisis this year.
In crisis situations, the most inappropriate thing to do is somehow guess or assume. So we need to be careful not to fall victim to targeted disinformation. That is why it is so important to look closely at the evidence.
Pope Francis also referred to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, as well as addressing the natural disasters in Madagascar and Brazil. At the Vatican, Pope Francis spoke his mind on the tensions between Russia and Ukraine, as he pointed out that it is sad when people, quote unquote, who are proud to be Christians see others as enemies and think of waging war against each other. The High Pontiff has talked about the crisis in recent weeks, praying on several occasions for a peaceful political solution to the rising hostility in Europe. Now we move on to other topics. In Canada, Ottawa police authorities announced that they will impose fines and criminal charges on citizens who support the protests against the mandatory health pass. Acting Police Chief Steve Bell ordered the deployment of police officers throughout the center of the country to prevent more protesters from approaching government buildings, including Parliament Hill and the Senate, as they try to put an end to the occupation of downtown streets. He also said that only those with legal grounds, such as residents, businesses, and others with legal grounds, will be allowed to enter the area. And China recently adopted a new anti-COVID-19 method called sequential immunization, which means mixing different types of vaccines to boost people's immune system against COVID-19. Instead of receiving the same immunity booster shot, which has been practiced in the country since October 2021, fully vaccinated people can opt to receive either a recombinant COVID-19 protein vaccine or an adenovirus vector vaccine. According to Xiao Ximin, the part of China's COVID task force, the primary vaccine they use is inactivated, but the booster shot uses recombinant protein. According to the expert, this technique is safe and effective according to domestic and foreign studies. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. The United Nations has denounced the forced eviction of Palestinians in Jerusalem. On Sunday, Stefan Dujarric, spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, said that Israel's evictions of Palestinian families from their homes in East Jerusalem in the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah is a flagrant violation of international law. Under international humanitarian law, Israeli forces are prohibited from forcibly expelling protected persons, regardless of the reason for such action. And the reconciliation process established by the Syrian government consolidates and remains on track. This Saturday, in the city of Deir ez-Zor, around 900 people joined the reconciliation to leave the armed conflict behind. In previous days, dozens of people had regularized their legal status in the city, despite the difficulties imposed by the pro-American militia, previously surrendering their weapons. The comprehensive reconciliation process aims to restore the legal status of fugitives and military fugitives who wish to return to the Syrian Arab Army in Deir ez-Zor. And the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, one of the most expensive projects in the recent history of the African continent and the focus of many regional tensions, became fully operational on Sunday. After an opening ceremony by Ethiopia's Premier Abiy Ahmed, the hydroelectric base resumed operations. The project and its startup have already provoked some reactions in Sudan and Egypt, where they consider that it is taking away the Blue Nile's resources. In January 2020, the three governments reached an initial agreement on the major points of dispute on the construction of the dam and committed to sign a final document in February, but Addis Ababa abandoned the talks before signing it. This Sunday, the dam started to generate the first production of 375 megawatts of hydroelectric power, thanks to 13.9 million cubic meters of water accumulated during the second filling phase. On Saturday, protesters took to the streets in Mali to demand the withdrawal of French troops in the country. France has over 2,000 troops in Mali, aimed at stabilizing the Sahel region against the rising threat of Islamic extremists. French President Emmanuel Macron made the withdrawal announcement on Thursday, saying that it will take place over a 6-month period. Meanwhile, protesters expressed during Saturday's demonstrations that if France wants to leave, it must do so immediately, no question of 4 or 6 months. Since the August 2020 coup, many Malians have since staged large demonstrations against the presence of troops from France. Experts and politicians expressed worry that jihadi groups will take advantage of France's pullout, while others noted that Mali's security has not improved despite the presence of the French forces. The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan began an official state visit in the Democratic Republic of Congo, expected to focus on security and economic issues. A press release from the Congolese presidency said the president Felix Tshisekedi is due to meet with his Turkish counterpart, who will be backed by a strong delegation of government members and business persons from Turkey. Erdogan's African tour will move on to Senegal and Guinea-Bissau. The DRC faces insecurity in its eastern region due to the presence of dozens of armed groups that regularly threaten civilians. Military operations are underway against these groups, which include the Allied Democratic Forces, the Islamic State's branch in Central Africa, accountable for thousands of killings in the eastern DRC. An Italian-flagged ferry continues to burn on for a third day off Corfu Island in Greece after a fire broke out on Thursday night while the ferry was en route to Italy. The Greek Coast Guard said that firefighters who are battling a blaze on a ferry sailing from Greece to Italy discovered a survivor on the stern of the still-burning vessel on Sunday, reviving hopes that other missing passengers could still be found alive. Rescuers managed to take at least 281 out of 292 passengers and crew to safety after the blaze broke out on the Italian-flagged Euroferry Olympia early on Friday, but 11 people are still missing, according to the Coast Guard and the ferry operator. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach held an unforgettable Olympic experience as Beijing Winter Olympics ended on Sunday with an uplifting closing ceremony declaring the Games closed and handing over to 2026 hosts Milano Cortina.
This unifying power of the Olympic Games is stronger than the forces that want to divide us. You give peace a chance. May the political leaders around the world be inspired by your example of solidarity and peace. You not only respected each other, you supported each other, you embraced each other, even if your countries are divided by conflict. You overcame these divisions, demonstrating that in this Olympic community we are all equal.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In the southeastern Brazilian city of Petrópolis, the grueling rescue work continues, and in the last few hours, more bodies have been recovered, bringing the death toll to 176. The heavy rainstorm that devastated part of the city has also left nearly 200 people injured, while the search for dozens of missing people continues. The storm has left a large-scale trail of destruction since Tuesday, making it the city's worst weather tragedy ever, according to the latest report from the city's police. In addition to the 176 dead, according to the latest fire brigade report, the civil police have a provisional list of 117 missing. It is precisely the search for life under the rubble that is keeping the rescue teams busy. In addition, in the last few hours, the civil defense gave a report confirming 775 incidents due to the landslides. And the forest fires in Corrientes, Argentina, are still raising alarms. International aid and occasional rains are assisting the firefighters against the flames. Argentine ambassador in Brazil, Daniel Scioli, confirmed the arrival of fighters from the Brazilian state Rio Grande do Sul, who will help the other responders to contain the blaze in the municipality of Santo Tomé, the location in Corrientes most affected by the fires. According to figures from the Institute of Agricultural Technology of Argentina, the blaze has covered 7,850 square kilometers. Now we move on to other topics. Last Saturday, the president of Peru, Pedro Castillo, stated that he has no intention of shutting down the Congress, which has an opposition majority, or remaining in power after 2026 when his term expires. The dignitary stated this is in an interview, for a Spanish-speaking media outlet in which he provided details after a week of tensions with the legislature, in which Castillo, as the head of state, in a message addressed to the members of the Congress, asked to turn the page regarding inter-party disputes and to think about the country and the people who are most in need. And there has been a development in the case of former President of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernández, as the Attorney General's office reported that it is investigating the existence or the lack of evidence regarding the pending complaints against him. This was requested by the judge, Edwin Ortiz, based on the Article 6 of the bilateral extradition treaty between the United States and the Central American nation, which establishes that if the requested person faces ongoing processings in the territory of origin, they must first clarify their legal situation. According to official data, most of the Honduran citizens accused and requested by the United States served trials and sentences in the North American country. Experts affirm that the handing over of the ex-head of state is inevitable. The mission of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in Bolivia visited on Saturday the country's former de facto president, Janine Áñez, who is currently detained in the Miraflores prison in the city of La Paz. There, the delegation verified that the government has respected her decision to go on a hunger strike as a legitimate exercise of the right to protest. The mission also informed on his Twitter account that authorities have not provided forced treatment nor feeding. The United Nations observers said the organization will continue working to ensure that the Bolivian state continues to guarantee the rights of all persons deprived for their freedom, safeguarding their physical and psychological integrity.
In this regard, we declared that there were no material conditions to protect the life of Mrs. Janine Áñez, leaving the Miraflores Penitentiary Center of our country. So the daughters of Ms. Janine Áñez began to obstruct the medical treatments that her mother should receive. Therefore, she was removed from the Miraflores Probation Center. Any aggression that this woman may have suffered is ruled out. The corresponding reports have been sent.
Haitian citizens crossed the border gate between Haiti and the Dominican Republic ahead of the beginning of the construction of a perimeter fence between the two countries, as announced less than a year ago by Dominican President Luis Abinader. Less than a year after Dominican President Luis Abinader announced the construction of a dividing fence between the Dominican Haitians cross gate with the Dominican Republic, Can Republic and Haiti, and also the project of the so-called intelligent border fence emerged after the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse by mercenaries. The first stage is designed to integrate a physical fence with lighting system, command center, control and motion sensors. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurienglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.